Welcome back to the channel, guys. Britain stands today at a crossroads, not a polite political crossroads where parties swap slogans every 4 years, but a historic moment where the nation must decide whether it wants to remain in control of its destiny. The question now being whispered by millions across the country and shouted by none in Westminster is simple. Should the UK enact a zero migration year to finally reset the nation after decades of mass immigration? For many people, this isn't ideological, it's survival. It's the reality they see every time they try to book a GP appointment, every time they look at their rent, every time they walk through towns that no longer resemble the places they grew up in. Behind all of it is one undeniable force: immigration levels completely out of step with what the country can absorb. Net migration in the United Kingdom is now at its highest level in modern British history. These aren't minor increases, they are seismic. Hundreds of thousands added to our population year after year. Enough to build a new city annually just to cope with the extra demand. Yet no such cities are being built. The strain is everywhere and no amount of political spin can hide it. This is why the idea of a zero migration year, a full 12-month pause on all non-essential immigration, has entered the national conversation. Not because it's extreme, but because everything else has failed. The public has been promised control since the days of Blair, through the Cameron years, through Brexit, through endless pledges from the Home Office that never materialised. Instead, the only thing that arrived in record numbers was more people. A zero migration year is not about closing Britain off forever. It is about breathing space, a national time-out, a moment for the country to get its house in order. With a freeze in place, government could finally stabilise overstretched public services, clear asylum backlogs, repair dangerously strained infrastructure, and rebuild the workforce with trained British labour rather than relying on endless imported labour as a permanent crutch. Critics say Britain needs migration, but they never answer the obvious follow-up: why? Why does one of the most advanced nations on earth need to import workers to do basic jobs? Why does a country with nearly 5 million people on out-of-work benefits need to rely on overseas recruitment to keep the economy running? Why is the taxpayer expected to subsidise an economic model built on cheap foreign labour and short-term fixes? A zero migration year forces the political class to face truth they have dodged for decades. It breaks the addiction. It demands investment in apprenticeships, proper training and domestic employment. For the first time in years, British workers would see rising opportunities rather than suppressed wages. Of course, as always, Westminster hates the idea. The old Conservative Party won't touch it, Labour pretends borders don't exist, and the civil service establishment still behaves as if any meaningful border enforcement must first be approved by a committee in Brussels. Meanwhile, the country they supposedly serve is overwhelmed, overstretched, and openly question whether the system is even listening. The truth is this: the only people truly uncomfortable with a zero migration year are those who benefit from the current chaos. Big business that relies on cheap labour, universities that rely on foreign students to plug financial black holes, politicians who have built entire careers avoiding difficult conversations, and activist lawyers who treat the borders as an optional suggestion rather than a legal reality. A temporary freeze would rip that comfort blanket away. It would expose how dependent institutions have become on mass migration instead of self-improvement, and it would force them to reform or be replaced. But beyond economics lies the question Westminster refuses to touch: cultural stability. A country is not a machine, it's a living, breathing civilization. When demographic change happens at breakneck pace, communities struggle to integrate, identities fragment, and social cohesion breaks down. It is not racist or extreme to acknowledge this, it is responsible. Nations like Japan and Hungary openly prioritise cultural continuity. Yet, in Britain, even mention it triggers outrage from the same people who can't explain how unlimited migration is sustainable. A zero migration year slows the pace. It allows integration to catch up, communities to stabilise, and local authorities to regain control. It gives people a chance to feel rooted again in a country that feels like it's slipping away from them. Could it work? Absolutely, but only if the political will exists. Parliament. The UK Parliament has the legal authority to enact a temporary suspension tomorrow. The UK Border Force has the operational capability, if properly empowered. The public overwhelmingly supports drastic cuts to immigration. The only barrier is political cowardice. Will it solve every issue? No, but it will do something far more important. It will show the British people that their government still controls its own borders and still prioritises its own citizens. It will send a message that the era of runaway numbers is over and that the national interest comes before corporate interests. The country needs a reset. It needs breathing space. It needs control restored. And for millions of ordinary people who have been ignored for decades, a zero migration year is not extreme. It is the first sensible step in decades. Thanks for watching, guys. If you want more honest political commentary and don't want to miss what's really happening behind the headlines, hit that subscribe button and drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you'd like to support the channel's independent work, there's a buy me a coffee link in the description.